All right, let me test the audio. All right, let me test the audio. Audio good. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Stone who rule well, and shalom to the brides in the highways and byways, pushing this word north, sincerity, and truth. Sisters, the believers, the helps, shalom. This is the brother Iron from Jimmy Jamaica Camp. I'm coming with another quick lesson. This one is an addition to the milk series. Started the series a while back, and it was actually geared towards younger men in the faith coming up. Which I'm still a young man, by the way, and even as a refresher for those who have been in the truth for a while. So I just decided to start the series, and now we are at episode 11, which is actually the milk, right? And this topic is on Esau versus Jacob, the Israelites versus the Edomites, to put it in another term. All right, and let's get straight into it. Now, the battle with Esau and Jacob started all the way from in the Garden of Eden, right? It all started when with Eve being deceived and given the that cursed knowledge, that fruit unto Adam, which he followed, right? So let me start verse 11, right? So Genesis 3 verse 11, and he said, who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? Meaning, did they take off that knowledge, right? Because fruit represents knowledge, trees represent the source of knowledge, as a allegory in the scriptures, right? As we all know, the book of Genesis is within the first 10 chapters, there are a lot of allegories, right? Verse 12, and the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And Yahweh said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat, right? So that is why the scripture says what Eve was in the transgression and not Adam, right? Verse 14, and Yahweh said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shall thou go, and thus shall thou eat all the days of thy life, right? Representing what? Confusion, right? There will be also be the low, right? Esau is the lowest of nature, of nations. He's the only nation that doesn't have melanin. He's actually cursed with leprosy, right? Verse 15 says, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. So this is the key part, which links back to what I was saying regarding the issue or the rivalry between Esau and Jacob was from the garden, right? It says, I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel, right? His heel, Salakia, right? It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. And the woman, and unto the woman he said, I have greatly multiplied thy sorrows and thy conception. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Right? So, right here, the key part of this excerpt that I read is in verse 15, where there will be enmity, or there will be a difference between the woman's seed and the serpent seed, which we all know the women don't carry seed. So obviously it's an allegory, right? Now let's look up the word enmity. It's taking a while to load. All right, so the word for enmity is ayaba, right? Ayaba, which means enmity, hatred, right? Hostility, right? Enmity, hostile mind. And that is why, our people, which is Jacob, and we went through the curses in this series already. We went through who the children of Israel are. We went through who Jacob is. we also did Esau, who is Esau. So it's clear to show that this enmity is this hostility between the two nations or the two races, right? This is why we and the so-called white man cannot get along, and that is why he treats us the way that he does, and that is why we can never we can never come together and say let's put our differences aside, right? Because we have two different spirits from the beginning. It was prophesied. From the beginning, the Lord had set it up where there will be enmity, right? We are the sons of God, and they are the sons of the wicked. They are the sons of the devil. They're actually the physical manifestation of Satan. They are our adversaries, which that is what the word Satan means, right? Adversaries, and they're also a devil, which the word devil goes back to a slanderer, right? Because he actually slanders our people, right? He creates the conditions to make our people weak, by putting drugs and guns in the ghetto, feeding us with with corrupt knowledge, via his school system, or as the brother Makrat would say, his school system, right? He actually has set up the standards in America, the home of the freaks, no, land of the freaks and home of the slaves, right? It's all there. It's all according to what Esau is doing, and it's all based back to what this enmity, this hatred that will be between the two nations, right? So, as I stated before, this was all from the beginning, right? This was always from the beginning, right? Next precept. All right, yeah. So that's it for Genesis 3. Now, to as we build up, to get more understanding, this is Genesis 25 verse 19. It says, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, and the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padanaram, Slakia, the sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife because she was barren, and Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, right? And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. So the children we were at this enmity, this hostility, this fighting between the two nations, all took place within the womb, right? So out in Jamaica, say from in the belly them a fight, right? Which is exactly what's happening, right? It said his children struggle together within her, right? Let's look on this word struggle, right? Because people think that it's just a random thing that we and the so-called white man cannot get along. The Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they think that it's a random thing, right? So to be oppressed, grievously oppressed, crushed together, right? You're basically you can basically say they were actually bruising, as I said, struggled together. It was basically a fight, right? Now going back, said if it's and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Now this is what the Lord said. And the Lord said unto her, two nations, right? We also did do we looked at the word nations within the milk series as well, right? Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So to show that, look, two different nations, two different type of people are actually come out your bowels. Esau even came out red, meaning what? His blood was showing forth through his skin, right? So even they even look different. One came out black, one came so-called black, one came out red, right? It says, two manner of people shall be separated from their bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger, right? So there we have it. So the same thing that Genesis 3 and 15 was explaining about, the enmity between the seeds. It was happening from within the womb, right? Continuing on, verse 24 says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, right? Now, remember, it says the elder shall serve the younger, meaning that what Esau was made to serve Jacob, right? Because what Esau came out first, and these were twins, right? So, all you know who is the elder, the one that came out first. And after that came his brother out and took his hand, and his hand took on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So right there and there again, you have the heel right there, right? It says they shall bruise thy head and they shall bruise his heel. Jacob actually took held of Esau's heel, right? Which has another representation, but we'll get into that. It is not another interpretation, but another aspect of this whole prophecy, another aspect of this whole this rivalry. Let me phrase it like that, right? And even as they grew up, they had different characteristics. Verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, always in the field, always killing, always taking, always pillaging. Esau is a cunning hunter, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Now let's look up the word plain, right? Let's look up the word hunter first, right? So it says Esau was a cunning hunter. Let me also look up the word cunning as well. So the word cunning is yadai, which means to know by experience. I think one of these should go back to skill, right? So yeah, to know by experience would be the definition that I would or learn or to know, right? So he knew how to hunt. Basically, this word also goes into skill, right down here, right? A man of skill, right? So he was a very skillful hunter, and even in today's day and age, you can see that Esau is a skillful and cunning hunter because the ways how he trap our people and other nations, the way he go about doing things, even with regarding his blessing, which we went into the last lesson, we'll touch a bit on this lesson as well, is the fact that his blessing was his sword. Anything that he wants, he uses military, he used bloodshed, he used all many time of warfare, on people to get them to submit. He rules with that iron fist, right? Now let's look up the word hunter, right? The word there is tazayad, which means hunting, right? And if you look up the root, right, to hunt eagerly or keenly, right? He likes to hunt, right? To catch birds, to lay snares. Who like laying snares such as Esau, right? So that is enough on then the skillful and cunning hunter. And it says, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man. Now let's look at the word plain. Hebrew word there is thumb, right? It says complete, perfect, one who lacks nothing in physical strength, beauty, etc. And that is the thing. Esau is as the recessive gene. The blue eyes is a sign of recessive gene. The fact that he doesn't have melanin shows that he has a recessive gene. Every other nation has melanin apart from Esau, which means that what? He's not perfect. He's not complete, right? Quiet sort of person. Yes, all people just like to chill. And it says complete, morally innocent, having integrity. Esau does not have any integrity. Esau is not moral. Esau is the one who say you can actually do what you will. Be a homosexual if you want. Be you can have sex with beasts. It's okay for adults to have sex with children. All these things. Esau doesn't believe in rules and laws, right? So he's not moral, right? And he has no integrity because, hey, ask the natives or anybody that comes across Esau. He says one thing and then does the next. Say, all right, this are the agreement we're going to have, and then when afterwards, and stab you in the back, right? one who is morally and ethically pure. We all, hey, Esau, if you check Esau track record, from the Roman, even before the Roman Empire, but let me start there. Bloodshed coming all the way up, right? Upright, always in a moral sense, right? So our people are upright, and the main thing that makes us upright is the fact that we have the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We abide by his laws. We are the ones that actually got his covenant, right? But even growing up, those things were instilled in our forefather Jacob, right? Hence they described in this way, right? So there you have it. Differences as we go along, right? Now verse 25 says, and Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, he was faint, right? And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom, right? So everything to do with red is attributed to the so-called white man, you know, mainly, especially when it comes down to blood, right? And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright, right? Because as we know, according to the law, the firstborn gets the higher portion, and the firstborn is the one that gets, the chief of the father's thing. They're the one that are responsible, to carry on the name and bear the responsibility of the household if the father should pass, right? So it says, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob, right? Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So he sold his birthright. And it's the same birthright that he wants to kill our people for to this very day. Right? This is why he's actually doing all that he's doing right now, because he's trying to, take back that which was sold. Not try to do it by his own strength, by his own hand. But it was already preordained, it was already prophesied, it was already set in stone for Jacob to receive that birthright. Right? That this was of the blessing, as it said that the elder shall serve the younger. It was already set up like that. So if he can't actually go around it. But the Lord played out where he actually sold his birthright, right? But guess what? He won't take blame for that. He would actually say that we tricked him, or all of that. Even the word Jacob, we went into it. The word Jacob, our people is very skillful, and very very slick. Let's put it that way, right? Now, verse 27 goes into the blessing. Isaac was about to bless Esau, give him his birthright, give him his blessing. Esau went to hunt food for him, and then basically Jacob acted as if he was Esau. He got the blessing, and when Jacob came back, he was sorrowful. So we're going to skip around a bit, based on the interest of time. Let me see. Where are we? Let me get it real quickly. 1 second after. All right. So this is Genesis 27 verse 27, and he came near the Hebrew Jacob, just as Esau, or disguised as Esau, going near to Isaac his father, right? And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field which Yahweh had blessed. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blessed thee. Right? So this is it. It says what? The elder shall serve the younger. It says all nations, and also let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Esau is a son of Rebekah. right? So this applies unto him, as the scripture says, what the elder shall serve the younger. And the thing about this blessing is Esau didn't know that this was actually the birthright, which when we go down, you'll actually see it, right? Verse 30 says, and it came to pass as soon as Isaac made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in with his hunting, right? And he actually, said that he should let him bless him, all of that. Now let's jump to verse 33. It says, and Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, who was he who had taken venison and had brought it me, and I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed. Because that is the thing, it was a promise in a sense, in a certain way, or a oath, in a sense. So he actually, you remember, he said that Yahweh blessed thee, right? So he couldn't take back the blessing because it was already given. He couldn't actually retract it, right? So it says, I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. Right? And that is it. As it said, he sought it after with tears. It tells you that in Hebrew. In Hebrews, he despised his birthright, and he sought it after with tears. Well, guess what? It was already given, right? And he said, thy brother came with subtlety and had taken away thy blessing. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he had supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he had taken away my blessing. And he said, as though not received a blessing for me. So that was it. The blessing and the blessing was a part of the birthright. Because yes, he would actually get everything that his father as he stated, the birthright goes, with everything that the father would have owned would have gone to the firstborn, the majority, the higher portion, but that would have went to Jacob, and then on top of that, this blessing, but the blessing and the birthright are actually linked, right? Because what it comes down to what Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? If it was not that way, it would have been Abraham, Isaac, Esau, but that's not how the Lord set it up to be, right? And he let me continue. Verse 37, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and the corn, and with corn and wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do now unto thee, my son? So I'm asking, so look, I've given him everything, which also goes back to the blessing that, look, if you follow the commandments of the Most High, all nations shall be beneath you. It all connects. And this is where this is where the rivalry began. This is how it all started. All right, let me just check if there are any precepts. And they said we sold it or somewhat of a kind. Yeah, we didn't steal it. He sold it, right? He actually sold it, right? That was on him, right? Now, hold on, wrong precept. Yeah, right here. So, and what shall I do now unto thee, my son? Right. Verse 38, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So he sought it bitterly afterwards. He despised his birthright. And this is why the scripture said that he sought it bitterly, right? Because he thought that, guess what? The birthright and the blessing were different, but they are one and the same, right? And he already sold it. So there was nothing here, right? No receipt to bring it back, right? And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword, now this is key, right? This was in the last lesson as well in regards to Esau, milk number 11, right? And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So the thing about it is that there would be a time when Esau would be ruling. And no such time, as the scripture says, what the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. If not, who is he? Right? Esau is the one, he actually broke that yoke, in the time when the wicked kings of Israel, were going off, and basically, we were losing our power, we were losing dominion. The foundation that Solomon had set was basically, being broken apart, and they actually rose up and rebelled, right? And even since then, Esau has been living by his sword from that time coming up to now. We said look on the track records, You can check you check the scriptures, you can check the Greek Empire, you can check the Roman Empire, you check the medieval times, check slavery, check up to now, with primarily through America, with their military, their navy, making of weapons, the banking system with deceptive deals. As they say, what all wars are bankers wars, funding both sides, controlling the media. Esau have the whole entire earth under his hand. Esau doesn't want for anything. The chief of Esau doesn't want for anything. They are the ones that are ruling. The DuPonts, Gettys, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, those men, right? They are the ones that has a system that is in place right now, and they are the ones that are currently moving towards the new world order. Because what the new world order is Esau trying to take his blessing by force. So seeing that he lost the blessing to Jacob, he decided that, all right, I'm blessed with the sword, so I'm going to use the sword to take my blessing, right? So that is how the cookie actually crumbles. That is where it all started, right? This is where it all started. Right? James walk in the spirit. Psalms 91 verse 7, 1,000 shall fall by thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh unto thee. Right? Because all the troubles that are coming with this new world order won't affect the elect. Right? That won't affect the elect, and that is that pestilence is a part of his sword, because these disasters, these the economic wars, these famines, they're all engineered by Esau, thinking that he's going to what get his new world order. Example COVID-19, right? Now continuing on, verse 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And that is it. We look at the word enmity when it says, I will put enmity between thy seed and the woman's seed. The word enmity means what? Hate, right? So a hostile mind. So that is how the hostility started, right? And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob, right? And guess what? He has that hatred up to this very day, right? Up to this very day, he has that. And also one of the ways we wish to have everyone submit unto him is what? Giving out that RFID chip, right? Which is actually a sign of you submitting to Esau, right? But guess what? We will be sealed with that tawah, which is an exemption from judgment. Those who have faith in Yahweh Hashem Yahushai and endure unto the end, right? So it's going to come down to what? You choosing Esau and his ways, and basically being under Esau's dominion, or you'll be under the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai dominion, This is what it all boils down to. But as he said that, he says, and Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. And as the nations grew, as Edom as a nation grew, and as Jacob as a nation grew, it was all going to come down to that boiling point, where we're going to go at it, and it has been taking place through phases coming up to this very time, right? And if you want to see if it really is still in effect, right? Let's hear this judgment in Amos 1 verse 11. It says, thus say Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his rod forever. Right? Just look on how the so-called white race treat us. Jacob is his brother. Look how they actually treat us. They run all type of experiments on our people, You know, they kidnap our people, you know, they take their organs, you know, look on the such atrocities of slavery. Look what they did to the natives when they came over here, you know. Look what he's doing to the planet. Look of the conditions where that he has Jake in up to this very time. You know, we're in Esau's hand right now, right? And he will be judged for it, right? But it's all stemming from what? The blessing. That was the main thing. That is what started all this rivalry, oh, the blessing, right? Which he sold, right? So let me confirm with Romans, right? Now this is Romans chapter 9, verse 10. It says, and not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. So this is it. You know, from the beginning, it was set in stone that Esau should serve Jacob, and that was just our lot. But he's trying to rewrite that. He's trying to go against that, and this is why we'll try to fight against Yahushua when he returns. Right? Verse 12, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Right? And that is it. You know, the blessing was always given on what was given unto Jacob, you know. And it's gonna, though if you read it, it makes a comparison with even Pharaoh, how the Most High raised up Pharaoh, you know, to show so that he can be strong and that everyone would fear Pharaoh, and then afterwards he would come and deliver his people, and it will be seen who the Lord actually loves and who the Lord hate, who the Lord actually blessed and who the Lord cursed. Right? Now let me drop down to verse 22. It says, what if God, willing to show his wrath and make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction? And that is what Esau is. Right? And that is what's happening now with Esau. Moses is basically, you know, enduring with much long suffering him, you know, which is a vessel of wrath fitted to destruction, right? But he's building him up so that he, you know, he can be used as an example, right? That he might make known his riches of his glory on the vessels of mercies which he had afore prepared unto glory, which is what? He's Jacob, right? That is Jacob. We are the vessels of mercy. You know, the elect on this side, but as it says, all Israel shall be saved. So Jacob is the vessels of mercy, while Esau is the vessels of wrath, fitted to be destroyed. Yeah? And that is basically how it all boils down, right? It's gonna see, you know, who the Lord actually loves and who the Lord hates, even though the scripture just said it, right? Now let's get some examples of how it will all go down. Right? This is Obadiah chapter, well, it's one chapter. We can start at verse 8. It says, shall I not in that day, say Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau, and thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off and slaughter. So cut off by slaughter, right? Because this is what is coming to them for all that they have done to us over the centuries, over the decades, over the years. There's a judgment coming for that, yo, and it's all because he's bitter, because he gave up his birthright, right? He gave up his birthright. He sold it, right? But he's what? He's a sore loser, yo. Verse 10 it says, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. And that is why we say after they serve 1,000 years, they shall be exterminated, yo, because what they have done unto us is pure evil, yo. It was very, very wicked, right? And look at this. It says, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was one of them, right? He was one of them. Right? Even back then when the other nations were rebelling against Israel, at the time of the Roman Empire, they were there. You know, they took the riches and they built the Colosseum, made sport of our people. right? It says, but thou shouldest have not looked on that the day of thy brother, Salakia, but thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. You know, and they did that. Even in slavery, they actually had us as slaves, yo. And even though the Bible does not condemn slavery, but the way how they treated us as slaves, that was wicked as hell, yo. Because there are laws and guidelines in regard to how you deal with slaves. Neither should us thou had spoken proudly in the day of distress, right? Because they were proud against us. Thou should not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. So he was there, taking of the spoils as well, right? He was there. Even it says, neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that they would remain in the day of distress. So he was always against us, yo. He was always against us. Even when we were coming out of Egypt, they were against us as well. So I would say, yo, this is a continual hatred, yo. This is a perpetual hatred, as the scripture just said in Amos, right? Now let me jump down. Verse 17 says, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, right? Because guess what? We have a deliverer. As you say, Yahweh is coming back because the blessing still stands and we're going to get it. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh had spoken it. So all that you did, yo, was basically set yourself up to be destroyed, right? And we'll also take your land and everything, yo. We'll take everything that you had owned, right? But guess what? That's all upon your own doing, yo, right? So it goes to show that how you'll be taken down is by Jacob, right? As it says, the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall be kindled. They shall be kindled in them. So you will be destroyed, right? You will be devoured, yo. And if that wasn't plain enough, let's see what it says in Ezekiel, right? Ezekiel 25 verse 12. Thus saith Yahweh, because that Edom had dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, which we all know what the vengeance is about, and had greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of the Dan shall fall by the sword. Key point, verse 14, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, say Yahweh. Right? Because it was always the Most High's plan. We didn't come up with this plan here. We were just doing as the Lord, doing the Lord's will. Everything was playing out according to the Lord's will. Right? So at the end of the day, yo, this has nothing to do with us, right? But guess what? Based on all that you have done to us, the Lord will use us, right? And it also goes back to Genesis, the bruising of the head and the bruising of the heel, and also when we were born, right? We took you by the heel, and there's a reason for that, right? Let's get it. This is my final precept. What has happened? Let me get to it. In the chapter. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, starting at verse 8. Well, let's start at verse 7. It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, Or when shall be the end of the first? The beginning of it that follow it, and the beginning of it that follow it. So lucky, now let's see, right? Because the rivalry all boils down to this. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. And the hand of man is betwixt the heel and the heel and the hand. Other question Ezra asks thou not, right? So this is it, right? We will be bearing rule. We will finally get that blessing which was given on that day, in what was that? Genesis 27, right? That blessing from Genesis 27 all comes down to this. Second Ezra 6 at verse 8 to 9, right? For Esau, let me read it again. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. So, all in all, Esau, you're done. You're done. The blessing was not for you. It will never be for you, and you will not have it. The words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Hashem Kodash, will come to pass. It will all come to pass. Right? So hey, really I think that's the point, everything that I lined up came out, really hope this was edifying. And once more I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of greatness soul who will well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word now, sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps. Shalom.